Hey guys, before we start, a quick shout out to Alpha Dog Nutrition for sponsoring this podcast. Alpha Dog products are now available at dusupply.com, and you can use code ALPHADOG15 at checkout for 15% off and a credit for free shipping to try it yourself. Now let's get you to your podcast.
Welcome back to part 2 of the why. We're going to talk more about why we're houndsmen. We're going to get into starting a lion dog on dry ground, which is lots of controversy there. And of course, we're going to jump down a few more rabbit holes, including talking about why. What's up with that? Stay tuned. Hope you enjoy the show.
Look at that. Genetics, Benny. Genetics. That pup was a very natural dog. She trails and barks tree from her very first opportunity. See that pedigree he's got there? That dog goes back into that pedigree right there somewhere, Wayne.
One I just sent you is from Gene Morris. Says, this is Doc, my girl's boy. He's 11 now. Hard kid to beat. Great eyes in the brush.
I wonder if I can speed up the voice on this. You know how you can on a video? We might have to speed it.
We can be fast talkers.
Well, we'll have to speed up Jeremy. Because he's from Louisiana.
They talk real slow.
He talks real
Louisiana,
slow.
if you get in a hurry when you're gator hunting, you will no longer be gator hunter. You will be gator hunting.
Live trapped a coyote right there, huh?
There you go.
Is that from Jeremy? No, that's from Gene Morris.
No, that's from Gene Morris, yeah.
It says coyotes in a roll cage. It looks a little round, doesn't it? That's so you can put a low bumper on the front of your pickup and roll him down the highway and get him all drunk.
All right.
There's a guy that I talked to up in northern New Mexico that they're sending some Krogan hounds down there to run coyotes. I told him, let me know how they do. A Krogan hound?
Yeah.
I think it's just like a running dog of some sort. Running walker, something like that. Krogan. I don't know anything about them. I'd like to see if I've never known anybody try to run coyotes in this country or even up there, but it'd be cool to see how they work.
There was a guy over here, I think his name was Bobby. Can't think of his last name. He was really into coyote dogs. He had hundreds of coyote dogs, Slookies and all. He ended up dying. We got crossways when I had that good dog food from Iowa. He told me I was trying to triple my money on it, and I told him to pound sand, but that guy knew more about dogs in general than anybody I'd ever run into.
He's probably good friends with David, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was real good friends with David. He called me up and wanted to know about that. What was that dog food? Pizzazz. And he says, I understand you got some good dog food called Pizzazz. I said, yeah, it's pretty good. And you want how much? I said, I don't remember. It seemed like it was 50 cents or 51 cents a pound. He says, yeah, you're tripling your money on that. I'll take 3 tons, but I'm not going to pay you that. I told him, pound sand, that's what it cost me to get it there from Iowa.
I mean, getting it there and everything, you should be able to make a little bit of money on it. Why is everybody so worried about someone else making a little money?
Well, but I didn't. I sold it even money. I did it just so that I could have good dog food for me. Because I had to buy a minimum of 5 tons.
I honestly thought you were doubling your money, Benny.
I'll guarantee.
Just for you. Just to you.
There's Jeremy. Louisiana hunting.
So you talking crap tonight, Brett?
No.
Talking crap every night.
I didn't say
no
a thing,
different tonight,
Jeremy.
No different tonight than any other time.
I'm going to put everybody's name up here now.
Now, Benny was right about that line. And the guy was actually bird hunting and come up after, and the dogs bait it and killed it.
There you go.
1937.
Model 12.
Has there been any lion sightings in that country that you know of, Jeremy?
There was one north of us about 4 years ago, and I think it got ran over, and they did necropsy on it. I think it was from South Dakota.
Oh, from South Dakota. I would have thought there'd be maybe some of those Florida lions coming up in that country.
No. Everything we get from Texas or up north.
Yeah. You think that, well, there's quite a few coon hunters in your country, isn't there?
Oh yeah.
You'd think if they get in there very often that those guys would tree one every now and then.
Yeah. I would think with the idiots that I hunt that I'd have found one by now.
They'd have trashed on one.
Mm-hmm.
Tree something. Them lions, they travel too. I'm just surprised they don't travel over into it.
It's not
We
good.
get
Louisiana swamps is not good lion country.
Too wet?
used to be. We got enough deer to support a population. Bring them kittens over here, Chris, and I'll turn them loose.
I'll drop 3 off at Benny's and I'll take the other 2 over to your house.
No, Chris won't deliver them. You got to go get them just in case.
Yeah.
Okay.
Put some German
I'll just
Shepherd
drop
ears on
you a
them and
pin.
send them over.
You just turn them loose.
What you been
can
doing,
carry
Jeremy?
Anything under Jeremy, you
Nah,
can carry
working.
anything. You can carry anything on the back of a welding truck if you put a tarp over it. It will never draw any suspicion. I heard that one time. I don't know if I should try it.
Well, I went through a border patrol checkpoint down there in the White Sands. I think if I could pass inspection, anything can pass.
Yeah.
They had one look at you and they knew you weren't from Mexico.
Just send them
That
back.
little Border
Send
patrol
them
lady
right
just
back
shook
to
her head
Louisiana.
and flagged me on through.
Just let him go back home, please.
Yeah, don't stop him.
Jeremy, we had a black panther go through our backyard in the 1970s when I lived in the Ritter.
There's a bunch of them sighted down here, but I ain't never seen one.
They're like
Is that
Bigfoot.
like Clay Newcomb's Believer?
Yeah.
His dad thinks there's black panthers out there.
There, Black Panthers showed themselves when Obama was running for office. Remember, they
That
all
was a
got
party.
around and tried
That
to
wasn't a
intimidate
critter.
the voters. Oh,
Yeah.
they kind of acted like critters.
They say there's been no that melanin. How do you say it? Melanistic.
Melanistic.
That there's been no known lions that have been black. Now that's what I've always heard. Now jaguars, I think there's a melanistic.
Jaguars and leopards.
Yeah, they can
both
turn
do
black. But
melanistic things.
lions, they say no, but they don't know everything either. I guess.
No, I mean, there's a possibility.
I guess so.
Could they be covered in swamp mud?
Down here, they'd be blue.
Is that what
Swamp
your
Well,
mud
at
is
night, it
blue.
all looks the same.
If you see blue mud, you don't go through it.
Why is that? You
You're
sink?
gonna be stuck. Yeah. It has no bottom.
Why is it blue?
Rotten algae. I don't know, but it is blue, especially around the Mississippi River. If you see blue mud there, you don't go forward. You better back up.
Suck you in. It's all red mud up where I'm at. Nice slippery clay. You can put it in forward drive, not move an inch, and only an inch of mud.
I hunted a little old place. I say little, it means 1,500 acres. But the Corps of Engineers would bring in these road building crews because it's a lot of sandy dirt, and they would practice their, I guess what you would call maneuvers on building roads for the military to use in the sands of Afghanistan, Iraq, whatever. And they had a 80s model Suburban with tracks, and they had an Arctic Cat 4-wheeler with tracks. And if you saw those tracks, you didn't follow them. They could go where you couldn't.
They make it across that blue mud.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Made that mistake a couple times.
I did read about that, Missy. Did you guys hear about the cat? Did you guys hear about the cat that was on the Newport dock last week? ODFW sedated it, but it fell off the dock and drowned before they could get to it.
That sounded like an advanced cat.
Here's your buddy, Benny.
That's like, I see that Arizona Game and Fish killed a jaguar by accident. Remember that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Was that hell Hefe or
something like
Yeah,
that.
something,
Or-
I don't know.
Macho or I don't know. Yeah, they sedated it too much, right? Overheated it or something.
I don't know what they did. They should have hired John Klump. He's got extensive experience.
So what do you think, Jeremy? Why do you do it? Just for the heartache, the pain, the troubles, the yelling,
That's what I
the
think
getting
here
stuck?
lately. Man, I don't know. It's something that gets in your blood and you just can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
Do you guys?
Which I've had.
Do any of you guys see it as a challenge?
I
Oh,
think it's
yeah.
always a challenge. No
Even
matter how
old
good your
dogs are
dogs are.
challenging.
Yeah. Even no matter how good your dogs are, it's still a challenge. I mean, you know what's crazy is you'll hear this story a lot is when people get started, and you'll hear the story of, I didn't catch something for 2 years. I didn't catch something for 3 years, but they never quit. A lot of those guys that get out there and they'll run with somebody. I've had this happen a lot where you're running down the road, you rig a bear, and you catch it 100 yards, and they think this is cool. And they try to get dogs, and they have to train them, and everybody gives them their junk, and they're having a hard time, and it'll weed a lot of guys out. Or they'll go buy dogs, and they won't learn nothing about a dog. They just buy dogs that are made, and they don't really know what they're looking for. They're just hoping that dog barks and goes. So that's why I always have said.
We already talked about those people, Chris. Are they real houndsmen?
I think they want to be. They have it in their head they're going to be, and then they realize, holy shit, like I lost my dog for 3 days, or, the collars around their necks are worth $3,000. Well, not even more. I mean, if you have 5 dogs, you have $5,000 set of collars around their neck.
Okay, so at this hound sale they had, hounds and mules, the top dog brought what, $17,800.
Yeah.
10 years ago, Richard Dickerson refused to sell some dogs for $25,000 a piece.
Mm-hmm.
Steve Smith told me that to find the caliber of dog that I was accustomed to act like I wanted them to act, if someone would sell it for less than $22,000 today. So then the flip side of that is somebody willing to take a dog of that value, much less spend the money on it, and put it out there in the elements to pursue an animal that can cut its head off. And then why do we do it? It's a challenge. At the end of the day, what did you do? And so you go for a week or a month and nothing happens. But then the offside of that is, look how much time you got to spend out in the country, away from the city and away from the lights and away from the hustle and bustle, and just enjoy life. So I think it's a compound issue.
I think to answer your question, Benny, what makes a houndsman? Persistence and dedication. Somebody's willing to stick with the dogs and dedicated to make those dogs into what they can become.
Yeah.
And then it goes back to bloodlines and the strain of breeding you get them from, whether or not they're going to do it early, middle of the run, or later on in life.
But how many people go out to their kennels and take the time when they're feeding them just to sit there and look at their dogs and get to know their traits when they're not out there running like they're scalded water? How many people spend the time just one-on-one with one of those dogs, each one at a time, or as a pack, and just, I've been hunting and I get down off my horse or my mule to open a gate, and the dogs run up to me, and I just sit down there and kneel down there on the ground and take my time with each one of those dogs. And, hey, guys, come here, get a pet. I know nothing's going on, but let me scratch you on the head. It's got to be a part of it.
Well, that's like mine. Every one of mine needs singled out, but I can't stand to see one of them sit in a pen. Now, I've got one that's got to sit in a pen right now because she's in heat and I ain't breeding her, mainly because she's got to come out of this slump she's in before I ever even think about it. But
so you feel bad when you have to leave one in the pen? That's what you're saying?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do too, but I divide mine into two packs. I got all female and then an all male.
See, I only have 2 gyps at the moment, and they're in kennels, and then all my male dogs are in a quarter-acre pasture. Just because they'll stay in, the females won't. And I've got one up here at the house, and he's just on a underground fence and protecting the chickens. But I can't stand to see them in that pen all day.
Yeah, that is
they
hard.
Get sad.
I wish I didn't have to work. If I was Britt Vaughn and retired, I want that gum mule with 50 dogs in front of me every day.
I can't afford that many collars.
Who said you need collars? Go back to the old school.
Yeah, my dogs are too trashy for old school.
Mine are too.
No, when it's been a couple years though, but when I was in the mountains and then before, the dogs could only, 2, maybe 3 days free casting on a mule, and they get real sore-footed, and then I'd rotate. But now, last couple of years, I haven't got a sore-footed dog yet, I don't think.
Well, in y'all's country, y'all have to rotate. I could hunt mine 7 days a week.
Yeah. Yeah. They
Is it
get,
'cause- is
I
it-
was just to get mine ready for Arizona. I was running them up and down a gravel road. So that's the closest thing I have to rock.
yeah, I get
There's
mine
rock.
out. I don't know. I get them out 4 times and just get them out here and you know, you can call it lion hunting, but the chances of cutting a lion track are fairly slim. But at least they're getting out, exercise. And I've
And
caught
they're getting
bobcats out there before. I mean, I
well,
caught
you're
a
working
coon
on a
way out
handle
there.
on the dog.
Oh yeah, they all. I won't put. I got to have a handle on my dogs. I mean, they.
But each time you take those dogs out, you are working with those dogs
Oh
in
yeah.
some form or fashion.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And we've caught. I mean, I caught a coon out there in the middle of the desert. I don't know what he was doing out there. No water around for miles. And dogs treat a coon.
Yeah.
He was
And
on
we
a walkabout.
and we we trail foxes. You know, I know we do, but I can convince myself sometimes it's a lion also.
Hey, here's a good question for you guys.
Ugh.
Brett, you had to do this. You didn't buy a dog.
You know,
How could you How could you start a lion dog if you don't buy an old dog?
man, I tell you what, there's nothing easy about it. That's a fact.
It's a long process.
Yeah, it is. You learn. You know, you just got to keep going and keep going and keep going. You got to have dogs that want to trail too. You know, dogs that'll want to trail in the dirt, and then you got to start figuring out how to differentiate between, you know, how they start a lion track compared to other tracks, and how the dogs. You know, I was talking to a guy just the other day. He could, you know, he was telling me that just by the way his dogs bark, you know, how they open on a track, he can tell whether it's a lion track or what it is, and you know, then you just keep working at it and trying to find those tracks and try to make sure you're going the right way, and then learn how to look at the country and learn the most opportune places to start a lion track. I mean, that's probably as big a part of it as anything. You know, the guys who've hunted the same country, like the Mike Roots and the Warner Glenns and Steve Smiths and Benny Griffin and all these guys that have hunted the same country for years and years, they know when they leave in the morning, they know where they're going to hit a track, where they're going to try a track, you know, like Mike Root. I noticed, you know, and Mike's old school, you know, matter of fact, he's giving me a hard time the other day. He called me from up on the mountain and he said, "Where you at?" I said, "Well, I'm out here with these dogs in this buggy." He said, "Well, you sounds like you're getting a little too used to that buggy. You need to be out there on a mule." I told him, I said, "Man, it's easy just to jump him in this buggy and take off instead of saddling that mule." But he, you know, Mike has several mountain ranges, and I know I've listened to him and everything, talked to him. You know, he goes out and he hits one little mountain range, and he hits the, you know, the places, you know, the saddles and the places where those lions travel. And if there's nothing in there, then he'll skip to another mountain range, you know, and see if there's a lion in that country. And once he gets on one, you know, then he kind of knows where they're going and stays after them. But that's why these old dry ground lion hunters, you know, when you give them $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 to go catch a lion, you got to give them 10 days. I mean, because they got to go find where that lion's at. Right, Benny?
You know, yeah, and you know, there's another thing too. Like the last time that I put a bunch of dogs together, I sent two 6-month-old pups to Arizona to get trained, and they kept them until they were 3. Well, there's another part of this equation that we don't talk about. I brought those dogs home, and they knew exactly how to catch a lion, and they would trail and trail and push and push and trail and trail and trail, and never caught a lion. And so and I've bought other dogs to make a pack, and I'm looking at this deal, and so how come my dogs won't push? It's almost like they run up against a wall, and we're just not going to finish the deal. And there's one part of this deal, this equation, that we don't hear enough about, and that's confidence. That dog has to have enough confidence in itself to make it to the end of that race. You know, they can run, and that's how come you hear people say, well, this dog just wants to trail. Well, there are dogs that just want to trail, but what's the surroundings? What's going on? Do they lack the confidence of being able to push that trailing all the way to the tree and find their game?
You,
I think
you,
they got to learn how to or not to overrun the track, and the game they're after goes up sometime.
you know, though, I mean, I've gone long stretches without catching a lion. and you go for a long stretch without catching a lion, and you'll begin to believe that those dogs, they're not moving a track to catch it. They're just trailing. They don't care. But then when you do catch that lion, you're amazed at how they can pick up and move and go catch it. Now, I believe that my female dogs are a little more too much track minded. They're pretty satisfied just to work a track. But those male dogs now, they'll pick up their head. When that thing warms up and you're on a fresh enough track, they'll go. But there's times when, especially out here in this desert, when we're just working tracks and you get to thinking, you do that for, 30 days or something like that. You get to thinking, well, these dogs they're not running to catch. They're just running to, or trailing to trail. But then when you hit that right track, it's a different story. I mean, but seems like though they always start it slow. They don't, even that good track, they're going to start it a little bit slower. And, that's kind of the way. I always said the same thing. It's like those rattlesnakes, you sit there and you hear a lot of things out in the woods that sound like a rattlesnake, but then when you hear that rattlesnake, it's a rattlesnake. And it's the same thing with those dogs starting a track. You'll sit there and they'll start a fox, or they'll start this, or I've accused my dogs of cold trailing coyotes too. And and I've said it a bunch of times. I get trashy just like those dogs. I keep wanting to make it into a lion. And but man, when they hit that lion track and they start it right, and that intensity and those tails are going, and you just know it's a lion. You learn how to read those dogs. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think you gotta, going back to Trevin, I think you gotta be on what you know is a lion track, and you gotta be willing to walk that track out as much as you can visually see that track, and keep those dogs focused and trying to get them there. When I put those dogs together and my dogs knew what was going on and they just wouldn't push hard enough, they slipped up and they caught a lion. And then their intensity changed that day. And just to get the most out of that lion, I never shot that lion. I knocked that lion out of the tree twice. And I made those dogs run that lion down and stretch it. And when those dogs stretched that mountain lion and killed it, from that day forward, I had a different pack of dogs.
Well, the last two lions, the last lion I shot right away. But I got that big Tom, I caught him 2 times. And then the female, I caught her 3 times. And I got all the goodie I could out of them. They're too hard to come by down here in this desert to not do that.
Well, there's kind of 3 things on both sides. There's 3 things on a person. You have your area. It's damn near impossible almost where you are to get a dog like trained quick.
Oh, no, you can't.
And then, so your area is a big factor. Your time's a big factor, and patience, like as a handler.
Yeah.
As a dog, good genetics. I don't know, I said genetics. Benny's going to smile here in a second.
Stick his chest out.
And then no matter how much I got Chris to admit it. So, but then the 3 things on a dog is genetics, their intelligence, and the same thing, patience.
You got
patience, and so I didn't have some old houndsman to show me what to do. I got dogs from an old houndsman, and I had tips, but I never got to go out and follow. The best thing you can do is go pal around with somebody.
Absolutely.
If they have patience enough. That goes back to our being a mentor, and you say yes sir, no sir, and you listen to whatever he says. You can adjust it later on. It's like buying a used car. You go knock it down on price and you go home and do whatever you want with it. It's the same with dogs. Go run with someone, see how they do it, and then you fine tune it to your liking. But I think a lot of people they don't put in the time, even in a good area, and they don't have the patience because they think they watch the videos or they listen to this podcast or another one where the guy's, great lion hunter, and they go out and catch something in a day or hours, and they don't show the 10 days it took to make that video. So they kind of have it in their head that, oh man, I'm going to do a couple drags and, oh, look, my dog's putting his nose down and yapping at something, and we're just going to go catch something. I mean, if you get lucky, you'll get a dog to do that, but man, it takes a lot of time Time.
And
And game. Like you said, stretching that lion, getting them to bite at the bear's butt, whatever you're chasing. That's a big deal, you know. Even a man chasing a girl, you know, if you don't get to see her boobies, he's going to quit chasing her. You know what I mean? Like you have to have some sort of
my
interest.
gosh.
leave
There
it
goes
to
a rabbit hole.
leave it to Chris to
Hey, I'm just trying to say it.
to go into
You know?
that. But
Hey,
there's ways to get your dogs. There's ways to get your dogs going. There's ways to get them trailing and to evaluate them as a trail dog. And then I mean, I can go out there and I can see what I think's a lion track, and I'll have my dogs. You know, they'll be scattered around. They'll be hunting, and I can either step off my mule or get out of the buggy or whatever. And what I say is, I say, where did he go? Where did he go? And they know from prior training that means there's something here. We're going to go looking for it. And man, they really put their nose to the ground and boss says, where'd he go? There's something right here. And that comes from working with them in other ways.
Let me take there right now. Trevin, I don't know Trevin's comments up here. I don't ever want to come across wrong, and especially for somebody that's trying to do something like this. I don't believe that because somebody bought a dog makes them less houndsman.
No.
I bought dogs in the middle of my whole career, you know, that things like that happen. But at the same time, there has not been one person that's come to me and said, how would you suggest I go about it? That I didn't say, spend the money once, take the shortest route, buy a good dog. I don't care if it's a 9 or 10-year-old dog. Buy a good dog, surround it with younger dogs that have the drive and the intensity. And I don't say overload this other dog. Don't put 20 dogs on the ground, a bunch of damn turd machines with one good dog. You're going to cause a wreck. But if you would do that and go start with 2 young dogs and an old dog till your pack starts figuring things out and you've got a handle, then add another dog, then add another dog. But you can spend 15 years and $20 million feeding the wrong dogs, going about it wrong, chasing everything except what you're looking for, buying fuel, wearing out your Red Wings or
Come on.
feeding horses and
you're
mules.
You're getting personal now, Benny.
No, but I was just saying, I would not ever suggest that anybody take the longest route possible.
Henry McIntyre never trained a dog. He bought all his dogs.
I never saw Henry as a houndsman, and that's just, I saw Henry as a lion hunter.
Henry was a lion hunter.
And he was a lion hunter. But Henry also knew he wasn't a houndsman, and he could shorten his curve by buying top-notch dogs, and he didn't mind busting out the money and buying whatever dog he thought he wanted.
He knew the lions better, right? Because he didn't have to screw around with his dog, so he knew the way the lions worked with good dogs. And I don't think I think he's going back to where we were talking about. I've always said I don't think you'll learn to read a dog if you just go buy dogs. I don't, you know what I mean? I don't think. Is it easier? I'm spoiled now because I got older dogs. I hardly train a dog anymore because I just dump them with my old dogs.
We put them in with the old dogs, yeah.
And that's just as cheating as anything. But I also Jeremiah said it pretty good. Starting with the pup and doing everything the hard and wrong way, and years later catching your first is priceless because you made so many mistakes that you finally turned it. And then when you did catch something, you said, "Oh, dang,
there it is."
Yeah. I believe, and this is probably where Trevin's getting it from, and I've always said, you won't learn to read dogs unless you start with a young dog and watch that dog learn. You're going to learn with them, right? You're going to grow with them. His mistake is your mistake. Your mistake is his mistake. When you send that dog on that trail and get up there, because he opened up on it, you get up and there's a deer. And I'm like, oh, man, I should have checked track. You get all excited because he's opening up. So I think just going and buying dogs, you know, I just don't think you're going to learn a dog and how it works as well. Like you said, McIntyre, he's not a hound. He was a lion hunter, But damn, he didn't have to worry about dogs if he just go buy good dogs. And, but that was his tool. I think he was doing it to make money. He went out to make money. He went out to catch lion. We're doing it.
Yeah,
A lot of guys, I would say 80% of houndsmen do it because of self-satisfaction of training a dog and catching your first lion. Everybody remembers their first lion, bear, or coon, or whatever.
Well, I'm gonna tell you
Go
how
buy
I
a
did
dog
it.
and catch a coon. It's like that dog already caught a bunch of coons. That dog already caught a bunch of lions. I think it's less satisfactory using someone else's work to catch your first lion. If you want to be a houndsman, that makes sense.
Let me tell you how I did it. I'm a third generation houndsman. My dad's bloodlines are gone. My grandpa's bloodlines are gone. I ended up. This is the second set of hounds I've had since I've been an adult. I got a mutt we got from my son, and he kind of got me back into it because he does everything and does it right most of the time. So much so that I trusted him to take him to Arizona. So I bought a buddy of mine gave me a cur puppy, which he's got killing on his mind. He don't care about tree and he'll run track, but that's it. I bought a puppy and trained it with this mutt and this cur dog, and she's the best dog I own by far. I got another puppy, trained it with this dog and these two mutts, and then I got another puppy, and he's well on his way. So I carried a mutt, a cur, and a puppy to Arizona, and the other two had to stay at home because they
That's
were
a
in
perfect pack.
menagerie. I don't know. I bought when I bought my first pack of dogs. I bought 5 dogs, and when I asked the guy, I said, "Have they been on many lions?" He said, "No." He said, "But they've been on one lion many times." And he had that lion with a tracking collar on it and a chain tied to its foot, and they dang sure knew what a lion was, but they weren't trash broke by no means. Susie was about the best trash broke. I mean, she was a cat dog. And Bo, now, on the other hand, he was supposed to be broke, but he was a typical older male dog. After he knew I didn't know what I was doing, he come unbroke. He decided, I just want to run whatever. So that was an experience.
That poor old Susie dog, she sure got passed around a lot.
She went tree. If she couldn't sit in a tree, she went tree. But she was probably, everybody said the same thing, and I didn't know any different when I had her. Everybody said she was the best trail dog they ever had. And that's been passed down, like Booger and P and them. They are all Suki now, Iris, Al. Well, Al, Uno, and Timmy. And Timmy's probably more like her than any of those male dogs. They go back to her, but they also out of Jazz. So, but they're all.
Yeah, they go back to her on the dog side. On the top.
Yeah, on let's see, Solo. Solo was her daddy, and Solo was out of Susie. Solo was out of Susie and Bo, and then Solo was I bred Solo to Jazz, and that's where those terrorists came from. And Timmy's pretty much straight cat dog. He won't even hardly mess with a fox now. He's pretty much a cat dog, but he gets a little lazy every now and then too.
I saw Susie in action when Tom owned her.
Yeah.
I was sick. I just hadn't been too long since I was diagnosed with all my heart and lung issues. And so they left me in the pickup and they went to the dogs. And so I came gimping up behind them, and I got there and Susie was just getting ready to take those young dogs away from the tree.
Yep.
And Tom was asking me, "So what do you do about that, Benny?" I said, "Shoot that lion in the foot. Jump that lion out." That lion was up there 65 feet off the ground at a big old ponderosa pine. And I said, "Shoot that lion in the foot or in the tail or something. Knock that lion out of that tree. Make it jump. You're not going to hurt it for very long." "Oh, no, that lion's worth a lot of money. If I could get a paid hunter in here." Well, the paid hunter's not going to know that the toenail's broke. Come on. And so he wouldn't do it. And I said, "Well, all right. I guess you're not going to do anything to fix these pups and Susie." But that was just my attitude,
That's why Susie went down to Texas, because they put a line up on a rock and everything, and she could see it, but in those big tall pines, she'd leave the tree. And that's why. But everybody said the same thing. They said, if, back in those days, they said if she had tree, she had been a real expensive lion hound. She was a good trail dog. But I didn't know any different anyway. I liked her. I liked old Bo. Bo was a good dog. He'd go get you something caught, whether it was what you wanted to catch or not.
Sounds like my fury.
Well, then I bought Lily, too. The guy was going through a divorce, and I had been through a divorce just not too long before that, and I had a real soft place in my heart, and he was trying to sell dogs to get money, and that was Jeff over there.
Was that Jeff?
That was Jeff,
okay.
And I went over there and bought Lily from him. And
Lily went back to that Newt dog.
Yeah, Lily was, I call her cross-eyed Lily. Her eyes were real close together, and she was a neat dog.
She goes to that black dog, but there was a bunch of those little butterball fat white dogs.
Real soft,
out of that.
Real soft coated too. She had like a longer hair.
Yeah.
Real silky.
When she died, you could have skinned her and made a pillow out of that deal.
Mm-hmm. She was a neat dog, I liked her. And then Lily, let's see. The terrorists, Bo and P were out of Lily, or not Bo, Booger and P were out of Lily solo cross.
Okay.
So that's between those dogs and Jazz is where all my dogs go back to, with the exception now I've got this running walker that I raise these other Suki out of, and then Iris and Rusty and Iris are out of P. It gets confusing. I got it written down somewhere.
What was it that you brought to the rendezvous?
Oh, yeah. That's what it's about, too. The experience.
You want to listen to my little elegant talk here?
What was that dog you brought, Brett?
What's that? Oh, I bought that.
Which one are you talking about, Jeremy?
The one the older female he brought to the rendezvous.
Who?
You.
I didn't bring a dog to the rendezvous. Did I?
You brought 3 puppies and an older gyp, red and white.
Iris. I brought Iris.
Iris, okay.
She handles like a border collie.
Iris is that one you've got so much promise for her future.
Suki's the one, but Iris is she is double smart. I mean, double smart. When I caught that lion down there on the river, she trailed it, but then when she got to the tree and all that, she'd never been under a tree before. And when she got to the tree and all the dogs were barking, and of course, I holler at dogs to shut up in the kennel all the time. And she just sat there and looked at me, just kept glaring at me and all those. Of course, I was petting up the other dogs, and telling them good dogs, petting them up. And she just kept looking at me, and I hollered. I said, Iris, good girl, Iris, good girl. And after that, she ran, stood on the tree. Wah, wah. But she wasn't going to do anything. But when you let her out of the dog box, she runs to her kennel and sits there in front. If the gate's locked, she just sits there in front of her kennel until you go open the gate and let her in. She's so obedient, but double smart. She'll tunnel. She's like a gopher. She'll tunnel, 10 feet to get out of her pen. Her whole pen's concreted in and everything and a roof on it because she will get out. But she's a neat dog, and Rusty's her full brother, and he's a real sharp-looking hound. He trails good, but. Yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with what I got right now. They'll all trail a lion real good. What was I going to say? Why? You guys want to know why? What do they say? I waxed elegant in one of my videos, I tried to put it together. I tried to make my video and package it where it would reach a wider or a broader audience. Trying to practice what I preach. I can't find it now.
This is where's my cricket music? Here.
Adventure makes us feel alive.
It's all about the experience. It's all about, whether you catch or not, watching your dogs work. Even if your dogs start trailing, you don't catch it. It's like a accomplishment, and then next time maybe they get a tree. And like Brett said, and I think someone else said too, that it's the confidence, right? So that dog sat there until you said, good girl. And that dog's like, oh, wait, I'm supposed to?
It's okay. Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah, and then once you've done it long enough, I've been on a lot of bear and stuff, and my dogs, I call them off or shock them off a tree, and they're still going to tree. I did shock a dog a couple weeks ago. Had a little tussle at the tree. Dog jumped, landed on a head. Nothing. You leave dogs on a tree, you're going to get somebody aggravated, too long. And there was a lot of dogs there, and but I shocked them right there. You know what they did? Turned around and started treeing again. They didn't care. They knew they did wrong. They knew they weren't supposed to. But that confidence, that attaboy, no matter what species you are, that attaboy, it's a confidence builder, So, but it's 100% about the experience. If you're about your dogs, if you're about just going out and catching lion, then go buy some dogs and go make some money. Go spend $20,000 on a dog and train 10 dogs after that. You'll get your money's worth. Ain't no different than buying a $50,000 side by side or a $80,000 truck or $10,000 worth of collars. You use them as a tool.
Larry Hendricks made his living off of hounds. When he was 35 years old, his wife divorced him, and he decided that he had a choice to make, and he chose to follow dogs. And so he probably screwed up for him and people close to him by letting all those dogs and that caliber of dog out for just anybody to breed into or to have. But all that aside, I asked him one time, I said, "So Larry, did you ever take hunters?" He said, "I took hunters for a couple months and I didn't like it." I said, "Well, then how do you get your name out there after all these years so you can make a living off of selling dogs?" He sold trained dogs, he sold pups, whatever. And he says, "You just got to work at it." You're already got your name out there because of mine and Steve's dogs. He said, "All you got to do is just quit your job, hunt 6 days a week like it is your job, and make dogs." I said, "Well, that's easy. Where do you get your health insurance?" Or, I mean, we get so bogged down in how we're supposed to behave. But I said one time, I said, "So I'm having trouble selling these pups for what they should be worth." And I was just wondering if I was to put a lion in a cage and take it to my house and make an anonymous phone call to the game department, they'd come out there and I'd be on the TV, the news, and everything. And if I had a lion in a cage, everybody would believe, hey, that guy could catch a lion. Didn't matter how I got it. Would that help? He said, "I'm sure that would help, but I don't know when you get out of jail if your name will still be good to sell dogs." So, how do you go about this deal like you're talking about, Chris? How do you how do you get enough dogs and enough time and enough everything where you
You
can
don't
make money?
Well, you don't play football, baseball, basketball, or go golfing. Like if you're going to do dogs, you got to do dogs. There is no fishing on the weekends. There's in the summer times, you're not just sitting around saying, "Oh, it's summertime in Arizona. I can't run them for 2 months." You got to go out and chase coon or keep them dogs active or run them or chase coyotes, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I'm not saying be an outlaw, but I think if you want good dogs, you have to 100%. I was talking to my cousin about it today. Anything you do, it's ambition and motivation to do it. If you have the motivation, you really want to be the best houndsman out there, then get out there and be the best houndsman out there. But it's not happening just on the weekends. It's not happening once a month. It's not happening when it snows.
Mhm.
It's about
It's happening
focus.
all the time. It's about happening all the time. And man, I don't get my dogs out enough. I know that. You know,
Do any
I
of
got
us?
No, I got a life. Honestly, you know what I mean? I'm not making money off it. And even if I was making money off it, I'm not making enough money. I've never seen no filthy rich guides. They're not just, if they are, they're not just guiding. And they're far and few between, you know? So
I used
it
to hunt
costs
my
money to make
dogs.
money.
I used to hunt my dogs 4 days a week when I had the best dogs. But how do you justify that when you got a wife and a bunch of kids and you
Oh,
got a house payment, car payments, and you know
you, you know how? You be a rancher. Who has the best dog? Someone who's out there every day and they can take their dogs out every day. And why are they? They're not going out to hunt lion. They're going out to save their cattle. They have motivation. You know,
when I
they have
first when I
motivation.
first started I first started cowboying over there at New River, Arizona. Just a weekend gig, just whenever there was roundup, I'd go, and whenever I had time, I'd go, and it was with Don Pock and Gary Mallory and all of them, and they had their hounds, their lion dogs, and they didn't take the whole pack, but they took 2 or 3 dogs, and their lion dogs helped them work cattle. And if their lion dogs struck a lion track, then me and Don got to peel out of the cow works and follow hounds. And so along those lines, Chris, that works. And they're going to come across a lot more lions that way instead of finding a track or a kill and have to come back the next day and give the lion a good sporting chance. It's just a different life, like you're talking about.
Yeah. 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 I knew a guy who got dogs, ran them, hunted them, trained them, caught a lion, and that's he was done. He did that to catch a lion, and that was it.
That's crazy.
That was his goal. That was his goal. He did his
but
goal.
He did
went
it
on something else.
Yeah.
He did it. He did do it. Caught it in Florence, Arizona. Dry ground. Had Bam Bam
I'm going
walk.
to tell you what. Yeah, Florence is tough country. There's nothing but sand down there.
No, it's horrible. Houndsmen are people that are self-employed, and I couldn't run as much as I could if I wasn't self-employed.
That's when I was self-employed.
Yeah, everybody tells me right now, "You gonna get a job?" I'm like, I don't want a job. Like, I'll just find some more PI work. I don't, I've been self-employed for, gosh, I've took jobs here and there, but I took a job where I said I'd work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, so I could hunt Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday when there was nobody in the woods. All my day, any job I took, I tell them, I'll work weekends. I don't want, but I'll get Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday off because there's nobody in the woods those days usually. So I took the days that I could go out and not have to deal with people. But I also, when I had a job, I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna be gone for a week, and they said, well, you don't have no vacation time. I'm like, well, then don't pay me. I don't know how you can afford that. I don't know. All the bricks of cocaine I sell and prostitutes I run. I don't know.
Those alternate sources of income.
Kittens, you'll be all right.
Yeah. I sell lion kittens. I only have to sell 2 or 3 every few months. So I don't know. It is what you make of it, and it's hard, dude. It's hard if you have wife and kids.
Everybody gets in the same boat. They're trying to figure out a way they can spend more time doing it and still, provide a living for yourself and your family. I mean, I was always fortunate because I was self-employed. And when I moved up on the mountain, I had a pretty good team, I guess is what you'd call it, that worked for me. I had 2 guys that worked for me, and I had a lady that worked for me. And they were all, the lady was, she was smart. And, she worked at home. She just did everything from her house. So it was real easy. But then, when she quit and then the other guy quit, Martin, well, we kind of had a disagreement and he went the other way. And then when COVID started and Danny quit, well, that kind of put a cramp in my style for sure. I could only do it for 2 years, and then I sold the business. I said, man, this work's taking way too much time.
What do you mean I have to be there?
Yeah, that's ridiculous. So.
Well, Brett, and then Brett's got a unique deal, too, with his second wife. She really genuinely wants Brett to be happy, and she says, you need to get out in the hills a little more.
Well, I get grumpy if I have to stay around too long and don't get out. I get grumpy. I mean, I get grouchy, and she looks at me and she says, "Well, you need to go somewhere for a little while."
It's not that she wants him to; she just don't want to deal with his ass. Well, I was gone for 4 years, but I can't make over $100,000 up here on the mountain. There's no money up here, so in those 4 years, it's hard to come home on the weekends. And I'd usually come home Thursday night if I could. And what am I going to do? Disappear for 3 days? I already didn't see my kids or my wife. Well, my wife probably didn't care if I kicked me out. But, so then I'm stuck at home trying to be a father and a husband, and it's hard to get on a mule and
it's
go
hard when you got
dogs.
kids. When you got kids, I mean, that's tough.
Young kids.
Yeah.
My boys are old enough where I can take them on a mule and go. I got enough horses, they'll go. Most of my horses, even my dirty old Chupacabra Mustang, if you watch my branded video, I think it's on my Feral Family one. They ride that horse and it bucked one of my kids off, Trevor.
Oh, hey, I forgot to say, yesterday was my wedding anniversary. I've been married
Did you remember that just now?
No, well, no. I remembered it yesterday. She reminded me Saturday night. She said, tomorrow's our anniversary. And Saturday morning, she reminded me. But I've been married 26 years. But in total, I've been married 40 years of my life. I was married to the first lady for 14 years. And then this one, 26 years. So 40 years. Can you imagine that?
Man.
That's crazy. Benny shakes his head yes.
Yeah. How many years you been married, Benny?
40.
Yeah.
So you were married 42. Wow. I traded out, though, about after a little while. The first one didn't like me at all.
My first one didn't like me either.
But you're still with her.
Mine don't either, Benny.
Look at my son. What am my son talking crap? My 10-year-old, that was karma. He took my turn. What are they talking about? Someone's talking crap on her. What are they talking? My 10-year-old has a girlfriend, and she came over this weekend with hanging out, riding quads or horse, whatever. And I thought, man, how nice would it be to be with someone to your whole life, like meet them at 10 years old, date them, and just die with them. It's very rare.
This coming from you, and how many wives have you had?
It's all their fault. It's hard for women to deal with perfection, and I tried my hardest not to be perfect, but it was.
Wasn't there a
it
country
just comes
song
out.
like that?
You talking about staying with a woman from the time you're 10 years old?
Hey, if I could, I would have, but I don't know, hard to live with. I'm hard to live with. So,
I can believe that.
I've tried to divorce my one now. I always tell her I'm gonna go down to Holbrook. That's where the county is, files divorce. She says, no, you're not. I'm like, damn. She won't even let me do that.
Who's Trevor's? What I want to know.
That's his twin brother.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say, in the rest of the world, it's Sancho, but they don't have any Mexicans at Cholo.
Sancho.
No.
We got Jody here. So
It's like
Jody. That's military, Jody. Well, it's because when I say I'm going to get a divorce, I say, you get everything. The kids, everything. I said, you want the dogs? You can have the dogs, too. My wife says, no, nothing. That from the guy who has 9 kids that he knows about. That is true.
9?
that's the only ones he's paying for.
I never had to pay for a kid. I got custody of all my kids. That's all I can say. And 3 of them, of the older ones, are living back here again.
Boomerang kids.
Like Cody.
That's because they're spying on you. One's a police officer and one's a game warden.
Well, Cody, yeah, every time he calls me, I said, whatever it was, I wasn't there, and I'm nowhere near it. He says, well, I just got a question for you. He goes, I'm not giving you my work phone number until I have to call you on my work number. It's all right. I always answer in Spanish to numbers I don't know. Those Eastern Indians, they don't know Spanish. I try to talk to them about Medicare and car insurance in Spanish, and they won't talk back.
What are you looking at, Brett?
I am trying.
No,
I was going to try to share this thing.
Have you been working on that this whole time?
No.
Oh.
I get sidetracked every now and then. I don't know if it'll share.
And then had a colored
I
daughter.
don't either.
Yeah. Jeremy, when you come back to Arizona?
Can you guys hear
not
that?
seeing- We can hear it.
So many people
I'm
really
thinking
don't
about
understand.
December.
There's a rhythm to the chase, something ancient and alive, like the pulse of the wilderness itself. It's not born of hatred or malice. No, this isn't about a war with the mountain lion. It's about understanding, about honoring the dance that nature itself has choreographed. We follow the hounds because they are creatures of instinct and purpose, bred through the generations to chase the unseen, to read the wind, the earth, the stories hidden in their tracks. There's a purity in it, a connection to something primal, something that moves beneath the surface of who we are. When a hound casts its nose to the ground, it's more than just a pursuit. It's a communion with the land, with time, with the wild spirit of the desert. We follow them because through their eyes we see the land as it truly is, untamed, unforgiving, and achingly beautiful. It's not about the lion, not in the way some might think. The lion is a symbol of wildness, a shadow that reminds us that there is still mystery in the world. We don't follow to conquer, to claim a prize. We follow because in that moment we are no longer ourselves, but a part of something greater, something that stretches back to the first of dawn. Through the hounds we are led into places few have touched, places where the world feels endless, and time slows down. We follow because every trail they lay their nose to carries with it the scent of adventure, of wild places, and of freedom. It's not the end of the chase that drives us, it's the journey itself. The miles covered, the valleys crossed, the ridgelines crested. It's in these moments that we find our place in the world. Following hounds is a way to hear the land speak, to feel the heart of the wild beat and rhythm with our own. This isn't about dominance or trophies. It's about understanding why we're drawn to the wild, why we follow, and why, like the hounds, we return time and again to these wild places, chasing not only the lion's trail, but a piece of our own untamed spirit. Freedom. There's the why.
There's the why. Hey, I want to thank everybody for staying, listening. If you want to watch us live, go to YouTube, Interviews, Stories, and Tales channel. Every Monday night, we are live, talking hounds and houndsmen. If you have any ideas for the show, go ahead and send Brett an email at brett@born100yearstoolate.com.